I cannot get enough of this guy, man. George Santos needs to officially change his name to Scams Man. Sort of like, you know how Ron Artest became Meta World Peace? He should change his name to Scams Man because that would be super accurate and kind of hilarious. So here we have a piece in the Daily Beast. George Santos raised $133,000 from a bumper crop of brand new donors, many of which have never donated to anyone before, and most of whom have Chinese surnames. Many of the donations came on the same days. Now, this is one story. The other one is George Santos' campaign paid George Santos $85,000 last quarter. It spent nothing on staff, offices, or anything election-related. So as this dude is under investigation for and indicted for all sorts of crimes, money laundering, fraud, etc., you name it, as he's under investigation for those things, being prosecuted for those things, he decides, I'd like to do more fraud. This guy is like the Michael Jordan of brazen criminality. They say in the Daily Beast, since his May 10th indictment, Representative George Santos has brought in a surprising amount of money, about $133,000 according to his new campaign finance report. But what's more interesting than Santos just raising money is who's been donating to him and why. The short answer? It may have something to do with Guo Wengui, the self-proclaimed billionaire who defected from China and is now an enthusiastic supporter of American right-wing causes. The vast majority of Santos' fundraising haul, a total of $101,861, rolled in over the course of just 3 days between May 20th and May 22nd. All of those donors had Chinese surnames. Among all of them contributed the maximum allowable amount of $3,300, and 26 of them had never given to Santos previously, according to Federal Election Commission data. For 14 of those donors, it was their first political contribution ever. On June 23rd, the same pattern returned, this time to the tune of $24,100, all from donors who had never given to him previously. And the bulk of that cash, it turns out, went right back into Santos's personal pocket. That would be illegal, by the way. Feds say they have 80,000 pages of evidence on George Santos. Nobody is worse at covering their tracks than George Santos. He is embarrassing at this. Oh my God, this is amazing. In all, Santos received $125,961 from those donors. About $66,000 of that amount came from donors who had never given to any federal committee before, and more than $50,000 came from first-time Santos donors. Of all his donors this quarter, only 5 had given to him personally, accounting for just $157 of his $133,000 haul. The Daily Beast attempted to contact nearly all of these donors. Oh boy. Almost every number associated with these donors had an automated voice message. One woman picked up but quickly hung up after saying she didn't speak English. There was, however, one Santos donor who told the Daily Beast why they had given to the embattled congressman. The donor pointed to legislation Santos had sponsored, specifically a bill introduced to support Guo Wengui, the self-identifying Chinese Communist Party dissident who was recently brought up on federal charges related to a $1 billion fraud scheme. One fraudster supporting another fraudster, and that fraudster setting up these straw political donations in a brazenly corrupt way. Santos has lent vocal support to Guo in recent months and has sponsored a total of 11 bills targeting the CCP over the course of his brief tenure in Congress, all of which were introduced after Guo's arrest in March. Quote, he is working on the direction that I believe will benefit the United States of America and the world, this donor told the Daily Beast. So when he asked to chip in, I chipped in. I support him because he is not a talker. We talked about the same George Santos here? Are we talking about the same George Santos? He did what he promised. He said he will propose a free Miles Guo bill. He actually did it. The donor, who appears in prior FEC records, said that while he had supported other candidates based on their promises, he had been disappointed every time. You can find the info you need on Getter, the donor added. I think you guys get the gist of it. This is incredibly, deeply corrupt. He's got shady donors, one fraudster supporting another fraudster, fake donations, and then, of course, like we just said, pocketing a lot of the money. Okay, so here's what they say in Politico. George Santos' campaign had paid him $85,000 this quarter. The payments were designed to pay the Congress member back for loans he previously made to his campaign. The campaign of embattled Representative George Santos, who is facing federal indictment on fraud and money laundering charges, paid the Congress member $85,000 in the second quarter of this year. Though the New York representative says he is running for re-election, he spent virtually nothing on campaigning. The payments the campaign made to Santos stem from hundreds of thousands of dollars that the congressman member previously loaned to his campaign. Those loans had sparked questions about how Santos had so much money to lend his political efforts. Previous reports with the Federal Election Commission indicated Santos has loaned the campaign $715,000, although his latest report indicated he was now owed only $530,000. The loan repayments accounted for more than 60% of the $133,000 that Santos reported raising in the second quarter. The first-term Congress member who lied about much of his biography prior to his election last year reported having $55,000 cash on hand in his principal campaign committee. His fundraising was driven primarily by donors who gave the maximum $3,300. Among those who maxed out to the Congress member included individuals who listed their professions as student, housewife, and part-time job / cashier. It says cashier, not cashier. The latest filing with the Federal Election Commission also included an unusual note stating that the campaign intended to report accurate totals based on incomplete historical data. What I find so amazing is, after you were caught red-handed, don't you think you would be a little more careful moving forward? When you're a congressman, you are under a bright spotlight, homie. People are tracking your every move, looking at everything related to your campaign vis-a-vis finances. And this dude is out there basically taking bribes from corrupt Chinese billionaires. And I think it's like a weird straw political donor scheme where it's probably all coming from that guy. And then that also raises the question, by the way, of who was funding him beforehand. This is another thing that people have dug into. The guy lied about his entire employment history. He lied about 1,000,001 things. And then he's continuing with the same tricks. So he's got all these money laundering, fraud, all sorts of different things that he's now under indictment for. You're just adding charges against you, dog. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's not that he lies, because all politicians lie to one extent or another. It's the extent and the shamelessness of the lies. It's the, like, over-the-top, just total inability to do any introspection or realize how other people view him. And he's missing something in his brain that would allow him to act like a functional member of society. He's just missing that thing which allows you to feel shame. Remember when he said he was Jewish? And then he lied afterwards. I didn't say I was Jewish. I said I was Jew-ish. Okay, that was like a meager lie compared to the other ones. Remember when he said rest in peace to his mom who died on 9/11, and then it turns out his mom didn't die on 9/11, and later on he even said publicly, like, happy birthday, Mom, I love you, and she was still alive, and she died, 10 years later or something like that? Remember that? Remember when there was like a homeless veteran with a dog who had cancer. He did a fundraiser to give treatment to that dog and then dipped with all the money. Remember when he said he wasn't a drag queen, and then a video came out of him as a drag queen? Remember that? And then when he was caught, he's like, that's not me. And then people are like, that's obviously you. He was like, bro, all right, I only did it once though, so whatever. Okay, George, let me know how this goes for you. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.